It is the Bob and Colin podcast, which you can get in the as a podcast, or you can get it on Sirius XM 167 as a radio show.
Yeah, I actually listened to the show last night. You sounded very good, Bob. I didn't say you looked good. I said you sounded good.
What did I do?
I don't know. You were just
dulcet tones, or like my voice timbre, or
yes, yeah.
The
timbre of your voice and how pleasant you were with your buddy Doug McLean was fantastic.
Oh yeah, McLean was on yesterday. I forgot.
Yes, we're well aware that you forgot. Who's on today then?
I know. Billy Jaffe will join us. He's with the St. Louis Blues.
No, the Jaffe's with NESN in Boston.
No, Darren Pang's with St. Louis.
That's right.
Right. And Jaffe's with Boston. That's right.
That's right.
I got him backwards.
Yeah.
I know that. I just said the wrong name. I thought I was mentioning Panger, and I mentioned Jaffe. Well, the two names are very similar, Pang and Jaffe.
Oh, they're not.
All right, I tried. Anyway, those two numbskulls will join us, and we'll talk about what happened yesterday and what might happen from here on in. Considering all the trades that took place at the trade deadline, we'll commence to chatting with them, Pang and Jaffe, when we come back after these messages. We're back. It's McCowan and Shannon. And while you were away listening to commercials, there was a conversation going on here between, everybody except me, because I don't care. Billy Jaffe is with us, and Darren Pang as well, on who the worst team in the National Hockey League is. Panger, did you come up with one?
No, I was listening to what you guys were talking about, and I think there's some teams that were certainly poor in the standings, but are playing better hockey, and maybe that's because there's no pressure on them. You know, Bob, we see that so often, that there's no pressure. You start playing your game, and they start having success, and there's trap games for the good teams to play against. But, I've seen Arizona play some really good games. I've seen Ottawa play some good games. Buffalo lately is like they're playing very, very well. Detroit started this, obviously they had a great start to the season, and they're starting, they're starting to falter a little bit as the season wanes on a little bit. New Jersey's beat some good teams. I don't know, man. The parity of the bad teams is actually pretty good, to be quite honest with you.
Well, I think
that makes any sense.
I think you hit the nail on the head. In this regard, we see this in baseball all the time. Like, there's nothing more misleading than September numbers for a baseball team. The worst teams in the game will go out and go, 18-12 or something in the month of September, and you think, oh, they're getting it. They're finally figuring out they're going to be great next year. And of course, the next year they're crap, like they were for the 6 months before September came along. So I don't think I put much stock into it. Jaffe, you have an opinion on the worst team, do you?
I think, between Montreal, though, I just watched them play on Monday night, and they're playing hard for Marty, right? For Marty St. Louis. I guess Seattle, when it's all said and done, I know they're what they are and what they aren't, and they're working at it. But I think now, especially after the trade deadline, they got some great stuff back for a developing program, for a developing team. But I guess overall that team probably, and we were so spoiled, I guess, by the success of Vegas 5-6 years ago with what they did, and now we look at what this is old school expansion team right now in the Seattle Kraken, and I'd say probably them right now, Bobby.
Well, and they were a team that a lot of people picked to actually make the playoffs after their draft. I thought that was absolute nonsense. I said they'd be lucky to win 20 games. Now they won their 20, but they're not going to win very much more than that.
I'll ask Panger, former goalie, has there been any goalie this year that has struggled more to find his game than Philip Grubauer? The first half of I know Binnington struggled, and I'm not picking on your St. Louis connection, but but Grubauer, but Grubauer, he came in and they were celebrating in Pikes Market, right? They were flinging fish there that Grubauer signed there, and he has struggled mightily there.
He has, and it seems to me like, Billy, there is a direct correlation between, success and trust lack of success and lack of trust. I mean, they built their D on big lumbering guys that didn't have maybe a lot of mobility and thought they could maybe protect the house and kind of go old school and win 2-1 hockey games. And teams are picking that apart. And I found as the season's gone on, instead of just directly facing the shot and trusting the fact that you've got the puck carrier, there's just a lot of movement. There's just a lot of, is he going to pass it? Is that guy covered? So, I mean, I've seen him play some really good games, and then I've seen him like a lot of other bad teams. All of a sudden you give up a short side goal, you start cheating away from the post, you get guys doing a reverse VH when he shouldn't be, and now the team doesn't trust what you're doing behind you. So I don't know. This is where I have a hard time with analytics, and when people talk about expected goals against, which I still have a hard time figuring out all that stuff, expected goals against versus what saves you're supposed to make. But I do know this, like Marc-Andre Fleury is going to be a darn good goalie with the Minnesota Wild as compared to what he was with the Chicago Blackhawks. That's just the facts, because there's going to be a system, there's going to be belief, there's going to be trust, there's going to be support, and he's just going to have to step out on top of his crease and make saves, and that's it. And he doesn't have to worry about anything else. So that's why I have a hard time balancing stats and analytics when you're on a very bad team and you don't trust what you're doing like on the defensive side of it.
The other thing about Seattle, before we start going through the trade stuff, the other thing about Seattle is this is not going to be a quick fix in Seattle. This team is, and they got Matty Beniers coming next year, who's a really good hockey player, but he's still going to be a kid. Yeah. Ron Francis' philosophy is going to take time. It's going to take 3 or 4 or 5 years for that team to really make an impact. And you wonder in that city and they're paying a ton of money. They're the number 2 revenue team in the National Hockey League this year. Pure revenue of, seats selling seats is how patient will that fan base be, even in the short term, because they're not a knowledgeable fan base, so they won't understand why they're not winning like Vegas did very quickly. It's going to be a fascinating watch of what Ron Francis will have to go through there.
And it's one thing to lose, but how do you lose? If it's entertaining still and they're in it, I think the fans stay along. And I do think that there's a maturation process of those fans, Shanny, to, educate them and say, look, we're going to lose some like this, but we're starting to get better within 2 years. But I'm with you right now. I mean, I look at that team, many of these players won't be there in 2 more seasons. They just won't.
And I will say this, Ron Francis, we've all known Ron a long time. We all have an unbelievable amount of respect for Ron. I do not understand why an organization would have made Mark Giordano the captain and he doesn't last the season. I think that's a mistake. If they knew that he was going to be traded, make somebody else the captain. And what's that? That's, to me, that's not the correct messaging. Or don't name a captain at all the first year.
Yeah, because now you're one and done. Yeah, because now you're in the history of the books. Your captain for your first year is that guy, and he's not coming back, and he's not going to be there. And now you've got to select another leadership group. I'm in agreement with you.
Me too.
That's weird. That was weird.
Yeah.
Well,
I look at the roster, and they tied up. So Yanni Gourde came on an existing contract. They signed McCann to one. Eberle's on an existing contract. They signed Schwartz as a UFA, got him on a long-term deal. Are we missing some guys? Larson was already in a deal. Appleton's already gone.
Yeah. By the way, of the 30 guys they drafted, Darren, that in July last year, I think there are 12 guys gone, and there are still 4 or 5 guys that haven't played for the organization yet. They're playing in the American League or overseas. So Bob asked the question, who's the worst team in hockey? And Montreal's the happiest worst team in hockey because they are the happiest worst team in hockey, the way they're turning things around there. And then you have Seattle. So it's It's rather.
Yeah, and Arizona's excited. They're going into a small barn next year. There's going to be lots of ambience.
Yeah.
Well, let's hope they fill it, because if they don't fill that one, they're in deep trouble. What is it? 5,000, 5,500?
Oh my God.
seats?
If they don't fill that building, holy smokes. I don't know if we're allowed to swear on this one or not.
Yeah, you
that
can.
would
Sure,
be-
you can. You can swear. Yeah, you can.
That
swear.
would be
Really.
that would be tough shit to take, man. If they didn't fill that thing. I mean,
Jeff,
Hey,
I'm
listen,
in Washington. Yeah, I'm in Washington right now, Jeff. And I remember when we played golf in pouring rain in a torrential downpour, and you swore all the time.
that's
So
a
you
good
can
point.
certainly swear here.
Well, that was at my golf shots, and then you were starting to swear when you saw me. I had the wet t-shirt wet golf shirt going, and Panger was like,
Woo-wee.
Actually, Darren was swearing because I think he was your partner.
"Well, no, Panger, that was one of the best days. We're not going to get on a tangent there. We had a great day on the road.
I had all rain gear. I had all Gore-Tex rain gear. I was all
Oh, yeah.
prepared. I had the hat going on. I had the rain gear. I'm
Come on.
plugging away, and there's Jeff. He's got nothing. Nothing. Just soaking wet.
He looked
By
like
the way,
Mary
Dan-
Poppins on the golf. course.
By the way, Darren, just go ahead and name the golf clubs just so that you can get the plug out of the way and you can get a free putter or something. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, we are. It's at that time of year where the grass is coming out, and my Mira irons are ready to go. Beautiful MB 101s. Bob, they're beautiful. I mean, they look slick. The ball just comes off. It's so crisp like that. Okay, we're done.
Okay, we finished now?
Yeah.
That's good.
The
By the
preceding
way,
message was
Arizona,
courtesy of
Arizona only has 3,400
Darren Pang.
season tickets. You know, when you think they have to fill a 5,200, 5,300 seat arena, they only have 3,400 season tickets.
Well, that's
Oh
my
my God.
point. That's why I said they better fill that
So,
building.
Bob,
Yeah.
if they
They would
don't,
have to regroup on the season tickets though, because the prices for these are going to be much different than the 3,400 that they had at Gila River, where
Oh,
you know
yeah.
you can really get a good bargain. It might be a 12 game plan or whatever. But now, if the tickets are going to be $250 or $300 or $400, you never know how many of those 3,400 people are going to sign back up again.
oh my goodness.
Well, I mean, I don't want to hijack this conversation, but every time Arizona comes up, I get so frustrated by the NHL's mandate that they have to keep the team there. It just isn't going to work no matter what. And it ought to be moved. And Gary just does not want to do it. And I think I don't know why he's so stubborn about it. There's just no evidence that
What
that
is it, the
franchise will economically succeed.
Was it the fifth largest? Is it the fifth largest?
10th.
10.
It's number 10. Number 10. But
So
Darren,
what?
you worked there for 4 years?
4 years.
Yeah, 4 years.
4 years. Yeah.
But I've always maintained I think it's not a bad hockey market because the people don't show up because they know the team wasn't going to win. The problem wasn't the fans. The problem was the on ice performance all those years.
And the problem was where it was. Now, listen, they sold the place out when they were in the conference finals. They're
Sure.
if you're going to drive, if 85% of your season ticket holders are in the Gilbert, Mesa, Scottsdale, North Scottsdale, that area, or Central Phoenix and to the east, then you're not going to get, there's no one's driving up there and saying, hey, let's go to the game. There's no walk-ups. So the commitment it takes to drive that far, I know there's a commitment all over. There's big cities that they drive 40 minutes to get to a game. But there it is.
40.
It is.
40. You haven't been to Toronto recently.
There.
How about an hour and 40?
You're exactly. But they will do that if they're winning. They did that in the playoffs, and they came. And when Wayne Gretzky was coaching the team, I think we averaged 14,000 or something like that. So the crowd, it was good. Now there's so much uncertainty. Now the team's no good. Now there's no direction. Now everybody knows that the city of Glendale is bailed out on them. Now are you going to get in the car and drive into the sun on the 101 where you can be at home having a nice glass of wine, maybe watching on TV, maybe play a little golf, chip around a little bit? If they're winning and they're in somewhere in central Phoenix or in Scottsdale, I'm telling you, it works. It's location.
Well,
And if
but
they
that's
put it
all
in the
well
right
and good.
location originally, they would have been worked.
That's all fine. I hear this gobbledygook all the time of if they were winning. Well, guess what? They're not winning, and there's no prospect of them winning anytime in the foreseeable future.
No.
Seattle sells out everything. They're number 2 in revenue in the National Hockey League, and we just acknowledge they're probably the worst team in the league. They're worse probably than Arizona is, which is hard to believe, but that probably is the case. I mean, the market has failed, and it's not. You can blame it on ownership, and that would be fair. But whatever the case is, I think the franchise should move. And I think if the franchise did move, they wouldn't be going into a 5,200 seat arena, and they wouldn't be saying, well, we'll fill it if we can win. They'd be full, like Seattle is, like Vegas is. Thoughts, Jaffe?
I agree. No, I agree. I mean, I think the only logical, I'm talking in the States, is Houston. Now that to me, that is, I believe, the 4th or 3rd largest market in the United States.
It's up there, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And money, well, galore, especially right now with the price of oil. Anyways, the guys there, and they have a building, et cetera. I do think that would be the most logic. You keep a Western or Southwestern based type team there and everything, and it doesn't really upset much of the NHL apple cart. I agree with you. Listen, I was part of the Atlanta Thrashers, may they rest in peace, for 6 years. And I survived that before they didn't fold, but you know what I mean? They got shipped off to Winnipeg pretty quickly. And that was ownership. That was a gong show there. They had at one time literally 10, if not 11 different owners. And if you want to talk about ownership dysfunction, it was there, right, Shanny? It was there for a while. And that, to Panger's point too about location, I can stomach Phillips Arena being in the city. It would have been better in the suburbs, just like in Phoenix. You're more centrally located, but people would have given it okay, but except the ownership just never, especially when they got to that last group, they never wanted it. So if you don't have the right ownership and you don't have the right building, you're 2 whammies there. Move. And I have friends with Arizona, and I really want them to succeed. But I used to be on the wagon of, all right, get a building and make it right. I just don't see it working now. So yeah, I would move them to Houston personally. Easy for me.
By the way, look what the Atlanta Braves did.
Exactly.
They moved to the suburbs.
Yeah, right on the perimeter. That's exactly where the Thrashers building should have been, on the perimeter. With 20 minutes from downtown, it would have saved everybody 15, 20, 30 minutes getting into the city. Absolutely.
Well, the only argument I'd make against Atlanta would be Atlanta has a long history of not supporting their sports franchises the way other cities do. I mean, the Falcons get supported if they win. The Braves barely get supported when they win.
You're absolutely right. It's the most bandwagon city I've ever been in. And I'm from Chicago, and now I live in Boston, and I lived in New York. And those are 3 of the ultimate sports towns. I know St. Louis is a phenomenal sports town too. It's small, but you're right. Atlanta is complete bandwagon.
Well, they're not transient. That's why. I mean,
that's right.
They're not. You marry a St. Louis girl, you're moving to St. Louis.
Yeah.
Arizona. We do games in, oh my goodness, when Detroit and Chicago and even Pittsburgh with Crosby. And I remember doing that game where Ovechkin scored that unbelievable goal on his back. The crowd, it just was. You had to prepare yourself for the noise factor for the visiting team scoring, and so that's the reason they're not going to just. They're not going if you're not winning. That's just the bottom line.
Well, let's talk about some of the things that happened yesterday. Let's start with the Fleury situation. He winds up going to Minnesota. Do we know if the Toronto Maple Leafs rattled that cage at all? Because they should have.
For sure they did.
And walked away because the price was too high.
Well, price was too high. They wanted a bigger package of players. They wanted Fleury and Hagel, the kid who ended up going to Tampa. And quite frankly, I'm not sure that the assets that Toronto had were attractive enough to the Blackhawks. Well, in fact, they weren't, because they got 2 first-round picks out of Tampa for Hagel. So,
was the prospect too high? That's Knees, right?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, Matty Nyes. Yeah,
Matty Nyes. I was wondering if the aftermath is going to be as entertaining as the trade deadline day between the 2 general managers.
Well,
hey, that's a healthy one right there. I can't wait to see that unravel when they both get together.
Yeah.
Well, you know what, Darren, the Toronto Chicago rivalry, when you were playing for the Blackhawks, the Toronto Chicago rivalry was pretty damn good. Maybe
Really
this will rekindle the rivalry.
Yeah.
It's the
Yeah.
battle of young Kyles, right?
Hey, by the way, when we talk about Fleury, did you notice all the video of him carrying his own bag?
Oh, yeah.
He's walking through there. He's got his own bag going on, and he's carrying it. I'm like, man, somebody should have a cart for him. He's probably telling everybody, you don't want to be a goalie, you're carrying your own bag. But how nice was it to have the ownership group there, send him off a plane, pick him up? I mean, that is all first class all the way. Great job by Craig and the Minnesota Wild to get him on board and make sure there's a comfortable feeling for Marc-Andre Fleury. I think this was a really, really good pickup at a time for Minnesota where it makes things exciting there. Really exciting.
Not only that, Darren, after the game, Craig Leopold and Marc-Andre Fleury flew back to Chicago because Fleury hadn't packed yet. He got on the charter, he got on the private plane, flew to St. Paul, backed up in the game against Vegas last night, and then flew back to Chicago to get packed up and say goodbye to the kids because they got a couple of days off.
I wonder how many of the guys that got traded, if we did a survey, Southwest B, American Airlines first, or private jet.
Do you think he'll make that much difference for them?
Yes, I do.
Me too.
You do.
He will. Well, number one, he energizes everybody. You know, when you have a little bit of a down period and you've got a personality like that, that locker room will never go down. It'll never get down. When you got a goalie that's the first on the ice and challenging everybody every day, it's going to make everybody better. He's also, again, a goaltender that doesn't seem to get rattled. He doesn't seem to get off the train tracks very often. He finds his athleticism and he battles like crazy to get it back again. So whatever happened in Chicago and some of the goals that he gave up and some of the great saves that he made, I think he has an incredible ability to put that all aside, start fresh, and then go forward. Yes, I do believe he's gonna be great for Talbot.
Yes,
he's gonna be great for the defenseman because I know he's gonna cough up some pucks. He plays the pucks a lot, and sometimes there's gonna be mistakes, but still he's good at it. And the other two goaltenders aren't that good at it.
Yeah.
Or now there's only one goaltender. Sorry, Kokkinen obviously being gone.
Yeah, I just think that I think the point about being good for Talbot, I think oh no, what's going to happen to Cam was overblown because Marc-Andre Fleury in his run to Stanley Cups, to rings, always with tandems. That's how it's been for him. Now, one guy ran with it for half, and then the other guy seemed to take it for the other half. With Pittsburgh, right when Murray was there. But I do think that there will be some back and forth between the two. Talbot is a veteran; he's not a young kid. I think he's secure. Of course, every goalie wants to play all the time. But knowing, even for Fleury, just knowing that he's got a legit tandem partner has got to be huge. But what I really love about this, and many in general, what they did, you bring up his personality. You also added Delorier. This guy's got personality beyond, right, too?
Yes, he does. Great goal last night, huh?
But obviously personality. So you're getting guys that will acclimate to this locker room literally within the minute they walk in because of their presence and their confidence. And then you go out and get the Middleton and like, holy smokes, like this is like a WWE team on skates right now. I mean, they are going to be, they had personality because of Kaprizov, but it was different. Now you've got these big personalities in the room, and I think they're playoff personalities. I do. I think they're going to relish it.
You think Minnesota winds up making the postseason?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
100%. I think they're gonna end up right where they are right now, which is second in the Central, and so they will face the third in the Central. That's a very valuable spot. I know obviously I'm here with the St. Louis Blues, and I know that and we've heard, who was it that said that? Oh, it was Daryl Sutter. Great line, by the way, huh? About playing Colorado. So you
eight wasted days.
you've got to be in that 2-3 hole. I mean, that's just it. So the battle between Minnesota, Nashville, St. Louis, don't think Dallas. I'm going to leave them out of there for that. Those are the three teams that are battling for those two spots. That's going to be a wicked battle down the stretch. I've got Minnesota making it without a question.
Well, the problem in Dallas is when is Miro Heiskanen coming back? When he's got mononucleosis, and not only when does he come back, but how long does it take him to get back into game shape again after having mono? That's the tough part for Dallas.
What are they? Yeah. They have 21 games left. Vegas is the interesting one. This is where it gets tricky. They've only got 17 games left, and Dallas is only one behind. Winnipeg's right there. Oh, baby, look out. And they got a player that's on another team that might not be on that other team. We got some shenanigans going on.
Pang, I couldn't agree with you more. I just don't like what I'm seeing from Vegas at all. It's easy to sit here and say, especially with their injuries. I don't like how they're playing right now. I don't know Logan Thompson. I don't know, bud, if he's like a really good prospect or not. Regardless, I don't think he's ready for a long stretch run on his own. I don't know Leonard's still out. The vibe around Vegas, it's like you rolled 21 for a while or whatever. You're on the craps table and you've just crapped out a few times, right? You've busted. I just don't see it with them, but I do think that St. Louis will be good and they'll be there. And I do think I'm with you. I think Minnie finds a way to get into that second slot. I just think that Billy G is the epitome of a player's GM. We all know Billy G. I spent time with him with the Islanders and whatever. And he's just the kind of guy that just goes down to the locker room, unbuttons the tie if he's even wearing one, and just is like, hey, guys, let's go. Let's have a beer. Come on. Go out there, kick some ass. Let's go have a beer after. You know what I mean? And the players resonate with him. And he did everything that a player would want their GM to do for him. And he set them up for this year. Maybe not next year and the year after, salary cap-wise. But for this year, he set them up.
All right, we're going to take a break. We'll come back. We'll chat more about a couple of the moves, the bigger moves that were made yesterday at the trade deadline, and some of the not so big moves that may have implications. We'll return after these messages. It's McCowan, it's Shannon, Billy Jaffe, Darren Pang with us this afternoon. As John has said many times, the East is set in terms of playoffs. There's still decisions to be made and maneuvering to be done in terms of who plays who and where everybody finishes, because that's certainly not certain. But we know more or less who's getting in. And the interesting thing is Florida, Tampa, Toronto, and Boston in the Atlantic are all very good, all very capable of winning based on past performance and talent level. All of them, though, made moves. Do you perceive it to be defensive on the part of anybody that they make a move because everybody else made a move, or was this four individual teams all looking to get better? Jaffe, you shook your head. So
I think they're all offensive moves. Now, granted, some tried to make more moves than others too, but I mean, Billy Zito, holy smokes. I mean, he was out. You want to talk about Mr. Aggressive. He went out and got ahead of the game, obviously with Ben Sherratt doing that. And then Julian Breezeball, who I think Doug Armstrong and him, and I guess they're the new Jimmy Rutherford Panger. That's the way I look at them. These are the guys that do some things that make you say, wow. Now, Doug Armstrong, not as much this year, but in the past he has. But I just love what Breezeball did because, again, he's about the now. He's got Steven Stamkos, preaching to his team that this is exactly what we need, and everybody's believing there. The Bruins knew they needed a defenseman. They went out and did it. That wasn't a defensive mood per se. I think they not being able to get another forward, they kept trying to do that. That was not even reactionary. They knew that they needed another forward. They just felt they couldn't pull one off. But no, I don't think any of these were defensive per se. They all knew that they had weaknesses that need to be filled. Some of them did it better than others. It's a murderer's row in the Atlantic right now.
Yeah, it is. I think too the Hampus Lindholm deal is a deal in which if Doug Armstrong were to make that deal, then it was going to be a deal again that you've got to come up with the numbers and it's got to fit down the line. You pay a steep price, you're not going to have a rental player and not be sure that you're going to sign him. That's a good play by the Boston Bruins getting him. I thought the one amazing part was the Montreal Canadiens, who I know last year had a great run. Were last place team or close to being the last place team, and somehow they marketed a their players on the trade market at a really high value. I think they got like really either outstanding or really dumb on other teams' part to get the kind of picks that they got. Pretty remarkable, to be quite honest with you. I thought the Montreal Canadiens did a great job of getting assets and filling the cupboard full of picks and what have you.
But Darren, don't you think the prices that teams paid, like when you look at what Julien Brisebois paid for Brendan Hagel from Chicago, gave up two prospects, 2 first-round picks. No, I think that Tampa is in pretty good shape. But
Me too.
And Chris Drury in New York, he gave up. He's going to, if they get to the 3rd round, he's giving up a first-round pick. He's giving up at least 2 seconds minimum for Andrew Kopp. The prices were really, really high, Darren, and that tells me that there's a ton of pressure on every one of these teams thinks they can go all the way, and there's going to be 4 of those teams in the East after the 1st round that might regret actually making these trades, and it really is. There's a bit of a risk there, don't you think?
Well, I'll throw something at you. Like, we all, probably none of us here of the 4 of us really know how to value someone else's prospects.
Right.
Everybody says, well, we want a high pick and we want an A prospect. Well, you might think that Taylor Radish is an A prospect. Maybe Tampa thinks he's a C- prospect and can play a couple of years, but maybe he's a 4th liner. Maybe Boris Kachuk is maybe he's, not as good as what they envision, or it doesn't fit their team. I mean, in 2 years, they might not even be on a roster. And so you look back on the trade and go, well, the 2 first picks were 28th and 31st. And at the end of the day, who's the best player in the trade? And I think that's what you look at these teams. And Tampa Bay, they gave up assets, but how good are the assets going to be and how good are the picks going to be? In the meantime, they got Brandon Hagel, the guy that they wanted, and is a very competitive, good player that'll complement that group. I think this was a worthwhile move for the Tampa Bay Lightning going forward on a young kid that's got high upside.
The other 2 big deals coming from the same division, of course, Toronto and Florida. Leafs get Giordano. Florida signs Giroux, trades for him with Philly. 2 guys who aren't what they once were. I'm trying to say this diplomatically, but accurately. They're not bad players. They could be very useful in where they're going, but they are not what they were 5 years ago. Which of the 2 is less likely to be impactful, do you think? Either one of you.
I would say Giordano, if only because of the uncertainty of the Leafs goaltending. There's going to be that question. I mean, I think Giroux is going to fill a wonderful role there. And there's less exposure for Giroux. Now, meanwhile, I still think Giroux is pretty damn good. I mean, he's also one of the top, he does little things well, not just face-offs, but shorthanded face-offs. He's one of the top 3 in the NHL percent-wise. I don't remember what it is now, but he was in the high 60s the other day when I looked at that figure, just, shorthanded. I mean, his win-loss was outstanding. I think that we talked about this last night during the Bruins game, the telecast that we did against Montreal. Just, is this a Raymond Bourque-esque type move? You know what I mean? One career, whole career, one team, et cetera, going somewhere to win a cup. Well, let's wait and see. Remember, Raymond had to wait 1+ season, but I think Giroux fits in beautifully here. He makes their team so much deeper. I like Mark Giordano, but at 38, he's a little older. And I think that the Toronto lack of goaltending and issues that, they're going to try and outscore you in the 1st round again. And I just don't know if Mark's going to be as impactful as, let's say, a Giordano, as a Giroux.
Yeah, I think you're right on that, Mark, too, Jeff, and that is how exposed Giordano is going to be in that environment. Are they going to be a back checking team? Are they going to be a team that cares about the D zone? That's going to make him look like the guy that played in Calgary. The magnifying glass is truly on, and it really, it irritates a lot of us when I watch Freddie Anderson play goal for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Maybe I see the glass half full, but I saw him as a terrific goalie that made so many great saves, and everybody locally saw him as a goaltender that gave up so many bad goals. And I'm thinking to myself, that's a tough way to go about your business every day with that microscope on and that criticism. And for every pass that's not on the tape, or every one-on-one play that doesn't get defended the way that people envision him defending it, I hope it goes really well for Mark Giordano, but I'm worried on the other side. Not worried. I'm not worried at all. Actually, I've lost all my hair, but I think looking at the other part, the Giroux part, I wonder about a guy like that. He's not dominant in his personality, but he's dominant in his years played, the captain of the Philadelphia Flyers. Like, how much do guys defer to him? Is it going to be his show right away? Is it going to take away some candy from other guys that have had great success? Is there going to be a little bit of a check your ego at the door there with a player like Claude? That's what I'm interested to see with the Florida Panthers. It's
an interesting comment, but they already have a guy there, a real vet, even an older vet, right? In Jumbo. And I mean, does that help? I think it helps, Panger, because those guys can go get the Blue Hair Special early in the afternoon, the early beverages, and enjoy it.
There's nothing wrong with that, Billy.
I hear you. I just think that I actually think it'll help, but it's an interesting comment, Panger, about that. I just think he's going to be so happy to be in a place that's winning, where there's nowhere near as many eyeballs on him, in the sense of, the crowds are going to be awesome now, because it's going to be the hot thing to do down in Florida. It literally and figuratively as the weather gets warmer. And I just think, I don't know, I like the move. My biggest question with them, pretty obvious. What happens with Ekblad? Can he get back when he can get back? And also, what's up with Bobrovsky? Can he lead them to the hockey promised land?
They're in no hurry to have Ekblad back before the playoffs. They're in no hurry.
Of course.
Right. No. So Darren, you're in Washington today, but you cover a team in the Western Conference. The concern I would have if I'm the Maple Leafs is I just finished doing a Western swing myself. I think the East is faster than the West. I think team speed of every team in the playoffs is faster in the East than it is in the West. Even the teams that aren't in the playoffs are faster. I mean, Detroit's faster, Buffalo's faster, the Devils are faster. Can Mark Giordano, who's played every game in his career in the Western Conference, can he keep up with the speed of the East? I think that's the biggest issue. I think that's something they have to deal with, right?
It's a great question, because everyone loves Mark and everything he stands for, but the boots aren't getting any lighter. Right. Retrieving pucks, laying pucks behind, going back there, communicating with the goaltender, making sure those handoffs are very clean and good. How many times does he get run over? Yeah, he's maximized that body. I mean, that guy is absolutely overachieved, and it's been wonderful to watch. So, and you are right. I think you are right about the East. I think I know personally, when the Blues play a team like, well, they just had a great game against Pittsburgh a little while ago, but let's not go to the big boys, but let's go to the teams that you just mentioned, like Detroit, like Buffalo, like Ottawa, like the Devils, and boy, and Montreal, actually, another team that can move the puck and they dart around, and the minute you lay a hand on them, they might fall down. They draw a penalty. Now you don't want to hit them, and now you can't interfere with them. Now, where'd the puck go? Oh my God, it's over there. So yeah, I think there is a difference between the two, and I think it gives Western teams fits. And how will Mark be able to handle it? That's why I'm talking about back checking and backside pressure and caring about coming back into the D zone and covering the slot. If the Toronto Maple Leafs aren't buying into that, then obviously a player like Mark and everybody else, including their goaltending, will be greatly exposed.
Well, there's another thing to consider too, and that is that when you get to the playoffs, obviously things get a lot more physical than they are during the regular season. And speed, while an asset at all times, becomes, I think, less valuable in the postseason. You got to be able to fight through all of the obstructions that aren't called anymore, and all of the little things. And guys hit harder.
Based on that, then based on that, Bob, you think that Giordano will be a positive factor for the Maple Leafs?
Well, I don't know, but I think he could be. He could be. But I say that only with the emphasis that I wouldn't have done the deal, and if I didn't do a goaltender deal, I have no confidence that this team can keep the biscuit out of the basket. I don't think their goaltending is good enough. I don't see why we would suspect Campbell be able to bounce back from whatever it is that caused him problems. And now he's been hurt.
Yeah.
I don't know why you'd be optimistic about their goaltending. And if you're going to give up 4 or 5 in a playoff game, you're going to lose every playoff game.
Mm-hmm.
That's for sure, Bob. That didn't even work in the old Norris division.
And you're playing either Florida or Tampa in the first round.
Well, yeah, and you're going to have to hope that whichever one you play, they're looking ahead to their next game against the other Florida team, because I think we're all looking forward to that second round matchup between Tampa and Florida.
Yeah, Darren actually brought up a team he's superficially in the Pittsburgh Penguins, because I think quietly Pittsburgh might have made the trade of the day yesterday. Rickard Rakell, the Penguins' window of winning is closing very quickly. Malkin and Letang's contracts are expiring. Sidney's not getting any younger, but he's playing very well. So to add someone of the quality of a Rakell, I think really puts Pittsburgh in a positive position. Sorry for all the P's, but they did the Ron Hextall did the tweak that they needed to make, I think, to put them in good stead. Billy, what do you think?
I have to imagine that the Bruins were in on Rickard Rakell too. You hear the rumblings, knowing the Bruins, knowing what they need, especially on the right side with Bergeron and Marchand. They have to imagine that they're in on, but they didn't have the assets that Pitt ended up paying, which I don't even know if I would call an overpay. Again, it's market value. Your home is right? Your home is worth what somebody's willing to pay. That's what it is when it's all said and done. Rakell has seen his production decline the last couple of years. With that said, a guy like Lindholm's numbers haven't been as good too, as Anaheim has started to. At first it was a slow remodel, and now it looks like under Verbeek it's going to be a pretty good rebuild, right? But Rakell had to have been a last-minute type of, maybe not a swoop in, but at least a back and forth between Pitt and I'm going to guess 2 other teams, fellas. And Pitt finally said, all right, this, here you go. And I agree with you. It's a very good pickup. You got to think he goes with Malkin. You have to think that Russ goes back with Crosby on that line eventually. My question on Pitt, it's not even, Panger, I'll defer to you on Jari. I got to see it before to believe it type thing. But I wonder more or less about their D. Their D is a really nice puck moving D, but are they physical enough come playoff time? That's my question. They are traditionally a really good, tantalizing regular season team that goes into the playoffs. And I've been guilty of this, fellas, where I'm like, damn, they're good. And then they lose in 6 or 7 in that first round, because I feel like their D crew has some question marks to it.
Yeah, they sure have gotten a lot out of, and I just saw them just a few games ago, but sure have gotten a lot out of that. Marino was jumping into the play every single time he could. I thought Matheson might have played the best game I've seen him play in a game in St. Louis just a little bit ago. I think they're guilty of maybe being a little bit, maybe a little bit lackadaisical in their own zone. I think they do turn the puck over a little bit more than they should have, and they're going to have to tighten that up come playoff time. But if you're thinking Russ goes back up with Crosby and Gensel, is it Heinen, Malkin, and Rodriguez is the one player now that where does he fit in? If Rakell is somewhere there in that top 6, maybe Zahorna ends up being out. And when you put a right-hand shot on the left side of that third line, because Kapanen's already a righty, Carter's a righty, and now you've got this big body in Zahorna, which I had a hard time saying his name, by the way, the other night. So I just started calling him Big Z. So it is going to be interesting to see who gets
okay, here's a question.
The odd man out right there.
Here's a question or comment. I think there's short leash with Kapanen, Panger. He has not performed, and I thought he'd be the one maybe on the outs, meaning moving out. Rodriguez, I think, teases them. I know he was hot, then he got real cold, but I know that he's got a great shot. They can use him on a second power play. I think that there's a chance if Kapanen doesn't get his backside in gear, that's the guy that may come out of the lineup.
Yep, could be. Yep, could be.
Before we let you guys go, I don't know if we're going to have a chance to talk before the playoffs begin. Excuse me. So it's got a little something from you. Of those four that we've talked about in the East, Florida, Tampa, Toronto, Boston, who survives? Who survives the first round? We don't know exactly who's going to be playing who, so that's a tough one. But
I still have Tampa as my best team. I still have Tampa as the best team there, and for one reason, they got a big cap.
Yeah. Always pick the best goalie, guys. Always pick the best goalie.
Well,
he can run the table again.
Yeah, and that's where I have a difficult time betting against Marchand and Bergeron. But you know what, Billy, you see them every night, and you wonder if Patrice is completely close to 100%.
He is. He's good, and he's good right now.
Then I'll tell you what, it's going to be difficult. The Boston Bruins, I think, will always surprise you. They know how to play playoff hockey. They really do. So if you told me in the second round it was Boston and Tampa, it would not be surprising.
I just think, again, Panger, correct me, and Shannon, you guys correct me, Bobby. I think under Andre Vasilevsky, I'm being dramatic here a little. Not. I think we're seeing a Ken Dryden like run coming up. I do. I don't know if it's every game, and I know we have more teams now, but I'm saying dominant in his generation for Vasilevsky. How good of an athlete he is, but how good of a student of the game of goaltending. Just over the years, Panger, you and I spent time together around them and learned a lot. I mean, this kid is still a kid. I know he's a vet, but you know what I mean? He's got, I look at 8 big years ahead of him right now. And I could see a few more cups under him. Shanny, listen, selfishly, I hope you're right about the Bruins. I still look at their second line question mark at center, not being able to bring in somebody there. And you have Howler there. And then the other big question is, does Jake DeBrusk, can he sustain a high level he doesn't need to be great. He just needs to be pretty damn good on that offside, playing the right wing with Bergeron line. That's my question.
We'll find
all good questions.
Out.
All good questions. And Bob, before we go, I do think that Vasilevsky is going to have to be at his greatest in this one. I mean, it's a different D group. It's a different check-in line. They win it all. He's your Conn Smythe Trophy winner, and no one else is close. How about that?
Holy, it's March 22nd, and we're picking out the Conn Smythe Trophy winner.
I just picked it.
Holy jumping.
Holy jumping. There it is, boys. There it is.
All right.
Guys, we always appreciate your time. We thank you very much. Sorry to interrupt your lunch there, Panger. And
sorry, Bobby. I'm sorry I'm late again. I really do need an assistant. Joe Vitale and John Kelly told me that at lunch, and then I looked at my phone. I said, oh my God, I'm supposed to be doing something right now. And they said, see?
Well, by the way, you know who our traveling secretary was in Minnesota in 1992? You know who it was? Maybe you could use him.
Doug Armstrong. Wasn't he an assistant? Wasn't he helping out in the old days of the Minnesota North Stars?
He was helping me and Micheletti and Hodge every day.
There you go. Thanks, boys. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Bobby. Jeff.
Thanks, guys.
We'll come back after these messages. So here's the thing.
Yeah.
Florida's not home and cooled out for first place yet, but
no,
they got to come for an okay lead. They got a 6-point lead right now.
Yeah.
Tampa, Toronto, Boston within 1 point of each other.
Yep.
Although Tampa has a game in hand over the Leafs have a game in hand over the Bruins. How do you think how do you think those four finish the year? In what order?
Florida 1, Tampa 2, Toronto 3, Boston 4.
Well, the way they are now, technically.
Yeah, I do, and I'll tell you what. Toronto's in tough, and I say this intentionally. Florida's in tough. I really think that.
What do you mean?
Well, I think Boston is rounding out into really good shape. So I would not be surprised, as I said in the show, to see a Tampa Boston second round series.
Well, but why would you say Boston will finish fourth behind the Maple Leafs? I mean, either they're going to continue to be
because the Maple Leafs No, but the Maple Leafs, the Maple Leafs are still going to win their games between now and the end of the regular season, and they're going to end up third. And Boston's, it's all relative. It's going to be fascinating. That Atlantic division is crazy. And by the way, we haven't touched on the other Eastern Conference division and the New York Rangers, I think really improved themselves on Monday as well. And I think the Rangers, when you look at what Pittsburgh has done and Carolina, we know how good Carolina has been all season. They went and got Max Domi. Those three teams, and Washington's the fourth team in that division. I just don't see them making a difference.
No, I don't see Washington as being.
But the New York Rangers, with the acquisition of Andrew Kopp from Winnipeg and Tyler Mott from Vancouver and Justin Braun from Philly, they're rounding out into a good
well,
position.
And we talk about the Pittsburgh Penguins, about how old they are, how it's their last chance, and this, that, and the other thing. But they're right there. They are right there. They're playing well. They made a bunch of moves, not big ones necessarily, but a bunch of little moves.
Yeah.
I think you wouldn't be alone if you were a little bit scared of the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Agreed. I think Mike Sullivan is if not the best coach in hockey. He and John Cooper. I think Mike Sullivan's an outstanding coach, and I have a difficult time for the last decade and a half of betting against Sidney Crosby. I really do. He drags everybody with him, and that's how good he is.
Well, he's certainly done that, and Pittsburgh is right there, tied with the Rangers in games played, tied for second in the Metropolitan Division.
Mm-hmm.
In any event, our thanks to Billy Jaffe, Darren Pang for joining us on the program. That'll do it for us for today. For John Shannon, Bob McCowan, see you tomorrow. Goodbye, everybody.